Hello everyone, Justin here. Once again doing the out of character review in my bedroom because once again the sound is so much better in here. This is like the only place in my apartment where the reverb is not horrendous. So like this is the only place in my apartment where I can get audio that's not just filled with already like baked in reverb that I can't work with in post. So I'm not gonna start filming my in Multiprometheus ones in here, simply because those are like the main product of this channel, and them. I don't want this to be the background. But these out of character reviews, I think I'm going to film in here, simply because the sound is just so much better in here. There's a lot less reverb. There's a lot less echo. There is a little bit of a twang when the sound is bouncing around, but not nearly as bad as the reverb and the echo everywhere else in my apartment. And you also should be noticing that there is a difference in the picture and the sound of this out of character review than there are in my usual out of character reviews, and that is because I'm not filming on my phone this time. What? My phone actually in the video? I'm usually filming with this thing. For those of you who don't know, I film most if not all of the videos on this channel on my phone. It is the best camera I own, but I'm not filming this particular out of character review on my phone. I'm filming it on an actual camera. I spent about 7 hours today holding auditions for a short film I'm making. It was like a combined audition session for my film and two of my friends' films as well. And we borrowed a camera from the school to film the auditions. Well, we're not scheduled to return the camera until tomorrow at about noon. So I have this camera till then, and I thought, I'm going to see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse tonight anyway, and I was planning on making a review of it anyway, so why not film it on an actual camera that I have from the school for the night instead of filming it on my phone again? It makes filming better because it's much easier to set up an actual camera than it is a phone. It makes the picture and the sound quality better. It makes post-production better because I'm not having to work with variable frame rate footage like I have to on my phone. So yeah, I'm really glad I have this camera from the school for the night, and just figured I'd shoot this out of character review on it instead of my phone while I have it. So yeah. But I saw tonight Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Now, I was not really that hyped for this movie because it was another Spider-Man movie separate from the MCU, and we already have sort of a Spider-Man thing outside of the MCU, and that's the Venom-verse or whatever they're calling it. So it just didn't seem like a necessary movie to me. The second reason why I wasn't really looking that forward to this is because the animation style. Based on the trailers, I really didn't like the animation style. It looked very choppy, very low frame rate, and it just wasn't really easy on the eyes. And so the animation style second. Thirdly, Sony doesn't have a very good track record with Spider-Man related stuff. The first two Sam Raimi Spider-Man films are fantastic. Spider-Man 3, there are things I agree, there are criticisms of it that I agree with, but there are also a lot of things I love about it. You can see my in defensive review on it if you want to know more. The Amazing Spider-Man movies, the two Amazing Spider-Man movies really have people torn. And then the Venom movie, the entire second half of the Venom movie is a complete and total train wreck. So Sony doesn't really have a good track record with Spider-Man related stuff. They've only made good Spider-Man related stuff some of the time. And actually not most of the time. That's another reason. There was just a myriad of reasons why I was not looking forward very much to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I did find it interesting that they were bringing the Spider-Verse idea to the big screen. I have not read any of the comics that explore the Spider-Verse, but I have seen the the final two episodes of the '90s Spider-Man cartoon. The '90s Spider-Man cartoon, simply titled Spider-Man, is one of my favorite cartoons of all time. I love it so much. It's like, for me, it is the perfect representation of Spider-Man for me. And the last two episodes of the show are the Spider-Verse thing. So I had seen that, so I was already familiar with an idea of what this whole Spider-Verse thing was. I did find it interesting that they were bringing that to the big screen, and I did find it interesting that they were using the Miles Morales Spider-Man and for the first time not using the Peter Parker Spider-Man. So that was another thing I found interesting as well. But still, I wasn't that excited for this. I wasn't burning with excitement to go see this like I was when Homecoming came out. And so I kind of went into this tonight going, okay, it's a new Spider-Man movie, and they got Miles Morales, they got the Spider-Verse, they got this cool concept. It could go well. But then again, it's Sony, and they usually don't go well with Spider-Man. And so I was just really apprehensive and cautious going into this movie. And I have to say, this is probably the best Spider-Man movie since Spider-Man 2. The best Spider-Man movie since Spider-Man 2 that Sony had complete control of. We're not counting Homecoming because that was a Sony Marvel co-production. We're not counting Homecoming. I think Homecoming is a fantastic movie, but we're not talking about Homecoming right now. Out of the Spider-Man movies that Sony has had complete control over, I think this is the best one since Spider-Man 2, by far. It's a really, really, really fun movie. First of all, the story and what they do with it. When you have this idea of the Spider-Verse, when you have this idea of these parallel universes, and there's a million different spider people from these, like each universe has their own Spider-Man, and each parallel dimension has their own Spider-Man, and they're all coming together into this one dimension as a result of something, and now you gotta find a way to get them all back home. This is an idea that's been done in science fiction and fantasy to death. It's been done so many times, but they handle it really well in this movie for an animated movie that's supposed to be okay for kids, because you still have to do it in a way where kids can understand it. You're making an animated superhero film. You need to make it so that children can understand it, since children are going to be a very large part of your audience. So for a movie that needs to be able to be understood by children, they handle it very well. In terms of how parallel universes are usually portrayed in fiction in general, it's nothing that spectacular, but they did a really good job of making it smart enough for adults, but simple enough for children. I think they did a really good job of balancing that out. Not only do you have this really awesome concept of the Spider-Verse, but you also have Miles Morales. Miles Morales in this movie is a really, really, really likable character. Like, the first 5 or 10 minutes of the movie or so, I was a little like, ooh, they're trying way too hard to, and I swear what I'm about to say might sound a little racially insensitive. That is not my intention at all. That is not my intention at all to sound that way, so please do not take it that way. But it sounds like the first 5 to 10 movies, the first 5 to 10 minutes of the movie, it really felt like they were trying really hard to appeal to the minority. It's almost like Hollywood is going, look, there's a black Spanish-speaking main character in this movie. Look! And again, I'm not trying to be racially insensitive. That's not my intention at all. But that it kind of felt like that's what they were doing. It kind of felt like they were trying to make a PR move with it. But after you get past that first 5 to 10 minutes, he stops being look, we've got a black Spanish-speaking character in our movie, and he actually starts being a very likable, very enjoyable character. And not only is he himself a very likable and very enjoyable character that you connect with really easily, and you feel everything he feels, and you have the same hopes that he hopes. Not only is he a character you connect with really well and you want to see succeed, but the relationships and the dynamics he has with the other characters, his relationship with his father, his troubled relationship with his father, is really, really well done. His friendship with his estranged uncle is really, really nice and really touching. The relationship he has with the Peter Parker from another universe, from a parallel universe. Peter Parker from a parallel universe gets stuck in his, and the relationship he has with this other Peter Parker is really awesome as well. It's just, not only is Miles Morales in this movie a very, very enjoyable and easily connect with character, but it's also the relationships he has with other people. It just makes it so it just makes him a really enjoyable character that you can really, really connect with. And I think that's definitely the strongest part of the movie. This movie really doesn't have a main villain. It does have a villain. The stuff that the stuff that happens in this movie that causes all these other spider people from different universes to come into Miles Morales' universe is caused by a villain. And I didn't watch a lot of the trailers for this movie because, again, I wasn't that excited for it. So I don't know whether or not who that villain was revealed in the trailers or not. So I'm not going to say it just in case. But there is a villain in this movie, but he is not like the primary focus. He's not like the primary antagonistic focus. The main focus of this film is not them trying to defeat this villain. The main focus of this film is these other spider people just simply trying to get back home, trying to get back to the world that they know and that they are from, and helping Miles Morales become Spider-Man in his own right. Because when they find him, he's just this kid who was just bitten by this radioactive spider, and he has no idea what to do with this. It's overwhelming for him. And to see this normal kid, and by the way, Peter Parker, his universe does have its Peter Parker. So he knows who Spider-Man is. He's really familiar with Spider-Man. Everyone is familiar with Spider-Man. So to see this regular normal kid just going about his life, dealing with everyday normal kid problems, all the while the glorious Spider-Man is swinging overhead, and then all of a sudden he is bitten by this spider and he gets these same abilities, it's completely overwhelming for him. And to see how overwhelming that is for him really, really works in the movie. It really makes the character, again, very relatable and very connect-withable. So when all these other spider people are brought to this universe and they find him, he's just a normal kid who suddenly has these powers thrust upon him. It's all overwhelming for him. So while they're trying to get back to their own universes and they're trying to get back home, they're guiding him through the process of becoming a superhero. They're guiding him through the process of learning how to deal with your powers and learning how to use them, of course, but then also learning how to accept the spiritual and psychological ramifications of this, the moral ambiguity of vigilantism, the constant fear, the constant not knowing what fight could be your last, the constant fear that what you're doing could have ramifications for your friends and family, like all the psychological, spiritual ramifications of becoming a superhero. They're guiding him through the process of learning those things and accepting those things. And this is the main focus of the movie. There is that villain, but he's only there because he has to be. He's more of a plot device than an actual antagonist. The main focus of the movie is trying to get these people back home, and while they're trying to get these people back home, they're guiding him through the process of accepting, learning, and embracing not only the new physical abilities and physical responsibilities he has, but the emotional and psychological responsibilities he now also has as well. And this is very unique for a Spider-Man movie. It's very unique for a superhero movie in general. And I think it works really, really well. And as a result, this is a very fun, very touching movie. This is a very touching movie. You really connect with the emotions of Miles Morales. You really connect with his emotions, and you start to feel the same emotions he's feeling. It's a very touching movie, and there's just a lot of moments in the movie that make you go, yeah, yeah. It's not a perfect movie at all. The climax feels a little rushed. It's not a bad climax. It just feels a little, oh yeah, we're 2/3 into the movie now. We should probably have our climax right now. Boop! It does, the climax does feel a little out of nowhere, and once it actually gets started, it does feel a little rushed. And there's one other thing about this movie that I'm going to talk about in the spoiler section. Aunt May. They do come across Miles Morales' universe's Aunt May, and she's awesome. I mean, in every other incarnation of Spider-Man we've ever seen, Aunt May is just this sweet old lady who's only there to give emotional support or whatever. No, in this movie, Aunt May is freaking awesome, okay? She's fully aware Peter Parker is Spider-Man. She is fully aware of everything he's doing, and she not only has access to all of his technology and all of his gadgets and all of his information that he uses to operate as Spider-Man, she makes some of it. Aunt May in this movie is actively involved in Spider-Man's life, and it's awesome. Aunt May is awesome in this movie. With Justice League and the whole DCEU has a lot of problems, but there are things I like about it. And one of the big things I like about the DCEU is that Alfred is no longer just the old butler who gives wise speeches. He's actively involved in what Batman's doing. And it's the same thing with this. Aunt May's no longer just the sweet old lady who gives emotional support. She's actively involved in what Spider-Man's doing in this movie, and it's really, really cool. So that was the non-spoiler section of the review. I do recommend the movie. It's very good. It's a very, very good addition to the very large pantheon of Spider-Man movies that we have. But now this begins the spoiler section. If you have not seen the movie, I'm about to ruin a lot of really awesome stuff. So if you have not seen the movie and you think you might want to see the movie, well, you better stop watching, okay? You better stop watching or we're going to have a real serious problem. All right, so my biggest problem with this movie, my absolute biggest problem with this movie is the fact that there is a massive plot hole in this movie, a gigantic plot hole in this movie. The plot hole that I'm referring to is so huge, so massive, and so nonsensical that honestly, I have no idea how it actually made it through into the final product. How on earth did nobody during the script writing process, during the process of actually making the darn thing, how on earth did nobody point this out and say, hey, maybe we should fix this? It is one of the worst plot holes I have seen in a long time. It's one of the biggest plot holes I've seen in a long time, and it honestly boggles my mind that it actually made it through to the final product. And that is, in this movie, one of the other Spider people is Gwen Stacy from another universe, right? And we first meet Gwen Stacy at the beginning of the movie. She's going to Miles Morales' school, and she kind of meets him, and she kind of befriends him. And it's later a plot twist later in the movie that she's actually one of the Spider people from another universe, but she knew, based on her Spidey sense, that she had to go to this high school and she would find help there, and that's, of course, where she runs into Miles Morales. So it was like her plan from the beginning to befriend Miles Morales and, get him to help her. The reason why this doesn't make any sense at all is because the event that brings all of these other Spider people to Miles Morales' universe, the event that causes all of this, happens after we meet Gwen Stacy. After she goes to his high school and befriends him and starts trying to get him to help her. So that event brought her to this universe, but she's there before the event happens? This makes no sense at all. And it's one of the it is the worst plot hole I have seen in a very long time. Not the worst plot hole I've ever seen in my life. I've seen far worse. But the worst plot hole I have seen in a long time. It's so nonsensical that I honestly have no idea how it made it through to the final product. She went to Miles Morales' school knowing, based on her Spidey sense, that she would find help there. And she realizes, when she meets him, she realizes, okay, he's the help. And she starts befriending him, so he'll help her. And all of this happens before the event that actually brings her there. This is a person who's never written a script before in their entire life level mistake. This is ridiculous. Now, maybe I missed something. Like, maybe they explain it in a throwaway line really quickly. Like, maybe I missed something. And if I did miss something, oops. But I don't think I missed anything because I always listen to dialogue very clearly whenever I watch a movie, and I don't think I missed anything. I think it's just a ridiculously huge plot hole that makes no sense, and I have no idea how it got through into the final product. At the end of the movie is the after credits scene, and um, it's one of my favorite after credits scenes I've ever seen. So if you're familiar with like internet culture and the meme culture, there's a scene from the original, not really the original, but the 1960s Spider-Man cartoon that I actually really enjoy. I like that cartoon a lot. There's a scene from that where Spider-Man, like, I'm not exactly sure what the context is because I haven't seen that particular episode, but like he sees like another Spider-Man, and so they're like pointing at each other and they're like, who are you? Who are you? Like, what? You're me? No, I'm me, or whatever. And the image of these two Spider-Men like pointing at each other from this episode of the 1960s Spider-Man cartoon became like an internet meme. It became a very big internet meme. The after credits scene of this movie, there's another Spider-Man in another universe that wasn't in the movie before, and he goes to another universe, and that universe just happens to be the 1960s Spider-Man cartoon universe, and he goes to that scene, and they put him in the original clip from the episode, so now the Spider-Man from the episode is like pointing at this new Spider-Man, and he's like, who are you? And this was like, well, I'm you. Well, who are you? Well, I'm trying to explain. Who are you? Stop pointing at me. Well, you pointed at me first. Stop pointing. You pointed. Stop pointing. You pointed. And they have this like big argument over this scene. They know that scene was a gigantic internet meme. They know that scene was a gigantic internet meme. So the fact that they actually incorporated it into the end credits scene of this movie is really great. It's one of my favorite end credits scene I've seen in a while. In my opinion, it's right up there with the end credits scene of Deadpool 2, if you've seen that and you know what I mean. So it's great. Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy are kind of set up to be the will they won't they couple of the movie, and it's kind of this unwritten rule in Hollywood that if you set up that if you have these two characters, a male and a female character, in this situation together, they're gonna like hook up romantically by the end of the movie. And it's kind of refreshing. It's actually very refreshing in this movie that they don't. They agree to, they literally just stay friends like the entire movie. And they're cool with that. And of course they know that some sort of relationship would never work. They're from two different universes. Like that would never work. But still, like, the fact that they don't even go that direction is very refreshing, and I really liked how they did that. I've noticed Hollywood is moving away from that cliche. Hollywood is really starting to move away from that cliche, and I don't think it should be abandoned completely, because a compelling romance can be compelling, but the fact that it's becoming much less common nowadays is, I think, is a good thing, and I think it's been done to death. It's been done in almost every movie ever made. Maybe we should stop doing it, So I think it's a good thing that Hollywood seems to be starting to move away from that cliche and is starting to allow a male and a female to be in a movie together without hooking up. I know it's crazy. Crazy. Lock me up. I'm a lunatic. Nicolas Cage is in this movie. I didn't know that going in. I remembered Nicolas Cage, like, I remembered reading a news story that Nicolas Cage was going to be voicing Spider-Man or something, and I'm like, oh, this is probably some, like, small special thing for some cartoon TV series or something. I had no idea it was for this movie, and I had forgotten about it when I went and saw this movie. So when the noir Spider-Man, or whatever he's called, I'm not exactly sure what he's called, when when he shows up in the movie and he starts talking, I'm like, I know that voice. I really know that voice. And as the movie went on and I'm hearing this character talk more and more and more, I'm like, I really, really know that voice. And it was driving me nuts. Like, ever since, from the point in the movie where that noir Spider-Man shows up, and for the rest of the movie, it was driving me insane. Like, I know that voice. I know that voice. Who the frick is that? And then I saw the credits, and it said starring Nicolas Cage, and I'm like, Nicolas Cage! Nicolas Cage as Spider-Man, the dear Lord above, you have blessed us. Yeah, Nicolas Cage in this movie is great, and I didn't know he was going to be in this movie going in, so it was a nice, pleasant surprise. As Senator Palpatine would say, a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. So that's it. That is my review of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really love doing YouTube videos. It's a great passion of mine. I love talking about the things I'm passionate about. I love having an outlet where I can vent when I'm just super obsessed or passionate about something. And thank you guys so much for watching, taking the time out of your schedule and out of your days to listen to me talk about superheroes and movies and crap. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really, genuinely do appreciate it. And if you enjoyed, you can subscribe. If you enjoyed but not enough to where you want to see more, then that's fine as well. And yeah, goodbye.